Okay, I'm talking about the cap.
Yes.
I'm talking about the cap. So let me show you this. So you hear me talking about this. I've talked about it for years, the cap, the elevated mix layer. So where does the cap come from? Well, it comes from the Mexican plateau, okay? So there's the warm air that builds over the high plateaus of Mexico, and when we have a storm system out to the west, that approaching storm system, it pulls this warm air and it positions it or deposits it, if you will, about 3,000 to 9,000 feet above North Texas. When it's in place across North Texas, okay, what happens is this. So the atmosphere is supposed to cool with height, but what takes place is we have this unstable air near the surface. It rises rapidly and it tries to create or trigger thunderstorms. When we have that warm, stable air, that layer of air in place, as opposed to the atmosphere just cooling in height, that rising air is blocked by the cap, that lid or that elevated mix layer. It acts like a lid, and those thunderstorms, they struggle to form. That doesn't mean you won't have thunderstorms. It doesn't mean maybe you won't have some small hail or some gusty winds, but when you have a cap in place like this, it really prevents the thunderstorms from towering up to 40, 50,000 feet or so, producing tornadoes, baseball-size hail, softball-size hail, or 60, 70, 80-plus mile-an-hour winds when that cap is in place. So what does it take to break the cap? Well, the air has to heat up enough to break through the cap. That's called our convective temperature. When we get to a temperature like that, it can break the cap, or maybe you have to have a disturbance that moves overhead. A warm front, a cold front, maybe a dry line. It provides enough lift to overcome the cap. Or there we have that front or that dry line that moves in. That just provides that extra lift to break it. So you're like, hold on, I'm from Minnesota. I'm from parts of the Dakotas. I've never heard about a cap before. You're absolutely right. Maybe you have a little bit of a cap up there every so often, but remember, you're so far from the source region, northern Mexico, it just doesn't flow that far to the north. So predominantly it takes place in the state of Texas. It does start to move up into parts of Oklahoma, parts of we'll call it the southern portions of the Midwest. It may make it that far a couple of times a year, but it's predominantly here in Texas and also across Oklahoma, but certainly across the state of Texas. Why? Because look what's just to the south of us, northern Mexico.